Hi, I'm Mark Johnson, and this is my teaching philosophy assignment. Part of my teaching philosophy came from a book that I've had since I was a teenager called A Pillar of Iron by Taylor Caldwell. It's a book about the life of Marcus Cicero, senator of Rome. And there was a particular excerpt in this book where she quoted a letter that he wrote to his wife, Terentia, and I'd like to share it with you. In fact, it's on the screen here, but it's in this book. And it happened while he was a kid, a teenager, basically. After his father died, he came to realize that a lot of people who he knew when his father was alive were pretty bad folks, but they didn't act bad around him when his father was alive. But after his father died, they did. So he says, it is wrong to bring children up in an atmosphere solely of family and fraternal affection without enlightening them that beyond the safe walls of home there lives a world of godless, dishonorable, amoral men, and that these men are in the majority. For when an innocent youth must inevitably encounter the world of men, he suffers a wound from which he will never recover, and a sickness of heart which will permanently sicken his soul. Better at once, even from the cradle, to teach your son that man is intrinsically evil, and that he is a destroyer and a liar and a latent murderer, and that your son must be armed against his brother, lest he die in body or in spirit. The Jews are quite correct when they declare that man is desperately wicked from his birth and evil from his youth. Possessing this knowledge, your son can then say to himself, with the help of God, I shall be kinder than my brother and shall strive for virtue. It is my duty to aspire above my human nature. And I'll never forget that because it means a lot to me. I think that in our teaching, one of the failings that we often have is that we do not make connections with the real world and teach children some of the practical aspects of dealing with people and guarding themselves against the problems that other people cause for us, and some of them are pretty bad problems. Stop and think as you got older how so many people talk about the cover your ass letter or data or whatever, that you have to do something to protect yourself from somebody attacking you. And so that's what that comes from. Uh, Usually it's not this bad, but then look at the man and the woman in Madison last week who were shot in their home in front of their children. Um, People can be pretty evil, and we have to teach children to not be naive and to protect themselves against that so that they can be successful in their careers by understanding people's behavior and by guarding themselves against that. Then I would also share with you some of my other philosophy about education. I think our students are falling behind with respect to student performance in math and science. And why is it? Students are afraid and intimidated by science. It is important to stimulate a sense of wonder in students. I challenge students to question conventions and integrate science content into other content areas. The curriculum and other teachers must be used to demonstrate that everything is connected. When we do this, students, when we do this, students become the artists they really are. In James Michener's The Novel, Devlin on page 213 says, the artist must always be opposed to society against received knowledge. He must be prepared to explore the alleyways, to rebuke accepted wisdom, to confuse and challenge and reconstruct new patterns. And so we do need to tell our kids that when they say the Pledge of Allegiance, there's a diabolical part to that. It's not just a nicey, nifty thing. It is a way of brainwashing our children. The meat of Maslow's theory is that students strive to be all they can be. I encourage students to challenge conventions and foster a sense of wonder. Recently, One high school student I had in class explained how to build a transporter machine that would beam me up, Scotty. Um, and the kid was smart, and I don't think he could really do it, but it was sure neat to talk to him about it. We should embed all the concepts. Science, content, plurality, relevance must be presented to our diverse students through differentiated instructions because students come from different cultures and different life experiences. Not every student is an academician, but each is a thinker. Teaching is customizing learning activities so that every thinker thinks in their best way by reading, seeing, doing, or by acting out. In terms of diversity, in the crucible, Arthur Miller says, it is a philosophy in whose grip we still live, and there is no prospect yet that we will discover its resolution. And he's talking about prejudice. Resolution of prejudice and bigotry is education, exposure, and experience provided in school communities and by honoring racial, ethnic, and cultural differences as extreme goods. During the 1970s, the melting pot idea blossomed when people became more black than colored, more Hispanic than brown, more Asian than yellow, and more native than Indian. Assimilation was a goal that dishonored ethnicity, while the idea of plurality honors people's roots. Feminists and persons of different sexual orientations demanded that they also be the problem, or also be recognized honorably. A United Nations goal to save the environment is to empower women. Prince Charles recently released a new film called Harmony, in which Indian women, not American Indian, Indian women, were empowered to achieve sustainability. I empower students by using examples of successful scientists such as Marie Curie, George Washington Carver. I empower students with challenges to evaluate issues of prejudice, science, ethics, and environment. In classroom management, I've served as a substitute teacher for several years with students who disrupt, regardless as to whether they were labeled as disruptors. Usually these students disrespected others because they had little respect for themselves. They often refused to do academic work because they were convinced that they were not smart enough. Somebody taught them that. The big fight is to reverse their false beliefs. I design learning to ensure success, foster self-efficacy, and to motivate. Classroom control is maintained by having the best physical environment that included diverse technologies such as smartboards and computers. Students help design lessons and establish rules for conduct that emphasize respect, honesty, and, my goodness, mistakes. The honoring of human diversity and risk-taking. I stand for team play, demonstrate it, and command mutual respect. When a student disrupts, I use the principle of least intervention. When disruptions are intolerable, I direct the learning community to discuss and solve the problems. Students learn to support each other's development by establishing a sorority or fraternity greater than the classroom that can last beyond their short time together. To each lesson, I bring current events. I use visuals and hands-on laboratory exercises. Students use technology to construct lessons, especially when there are safety concerns with laboratory exercises. For example, chemistry experiments can be dangerous. Sometimes it's better to do them on the internet or watch somebody else do it from a safe distance. And so I really don't want to expose students to accidental explosions or acid burns and so forth. Field trips are fun, make learning fun and relevant. I have experience in government and private industry as a scientist and use it to make content relevant and connected to other areas. For example, when teaching about radiation, I tell students about personal experiences in a Nike missile command bunker on the Hanford Works Reservation. Social studies and history easily connect with science because there have been many new technologies introduced to society recently. My knowledge of career tracks and professional contacts enriches relevance and, I hope, stimulates students to be thinking about their futures. I use living demonstrations of homeostasis, evolution, succession, and energy flow through the biosphere to appreciate science as dynamic. Students lead discussions on current events, especially energy conservation. Students understand the concept of spaceship Earth, how science has developed technologies, and how social issues relate to the environment. In communications, I really think it's important to teach people how important good communication skills is or are, and how they relate to better incomes later in life. Science teaching requires integration of technical skills. Thomas Edison elevated research and development to a profession fostering the Industrial Revolution. Science is the art of imagining future possibilities, telling others about them, and making them happen. I'm compelled to teach students the importance of developing speaking and writing skills. I ally their fears and frustrations by showing them marked up drafts of my own papers. Collaboration with their English teachers supports their science writing assignments. Assessment. I really hate assessment, but you know, students have to achieve science content standards in K-12. And I will teach to the test. I will do anything I have to make sure that we meet the standards or competencies required. And although you can't make a horse drink, you can lead them to the water. And anytime I can find a better way to lead a student to the water, I'll do it. But teachers are required to maintain high student performance on standardized tests to provide critical assessments of professional performance. I have a passion for success and not for mediocrity. I have been where students are capable of going because some of my own teachers were superior motivators. My job is to show students ways to succeed. Teachers succeed only when the students succeed, and our success is measured one special student at a time. So that's where I come from. I think we really need sorry about that. So that's where I'm coming from. I think we really need to teach kids how to succeed. Success breeds more success. We need to show them what they can get for their effort and have goals that they can work towards with respect to careers and incomes. I've even had students that sat down and mapped their career based on career ladder performance levels in government employment because they learned and understood how to get there. Some of that was because of summer jobs and association with people who were in the professions that they were interested in. But it was knowledge that was basically learned by doing and by being with people in those professions. I don't think that we can bring people into a classroom and adequately train them for a profession just with academic knowledge. And I think that one of the failings that we have in our teaching is that we put too much in a course. We need to keep things practical. We need to keep it applied, and we need to reduce coursework to the essentials that are necessary to memorize from rote memory and minimize that. And then we need to give students the tools to find answers to questions that will come up because technology is going to change, the job landscape is going to change, and we need to prepare them for the future and not make them memorize the past. That's my teaching philosophy in a nutshell on a YouTube screencast. Thanks.